B-Bad and Brandon.
We welcome Jacque Phillipson to the podcast. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, it's been a long time coming. Obviously, congratulations are in order. Obviously, bub, brand new bub.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
You have a junior,
I do. I have a junior. She's almost 7 months old now.
Wow.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah.
So-
She's a little redhead.
Like proper redhead too. It's
Wow.
adorable. Which is
Yeah.
ironic because you and Tom are like blonde.
Yeah, my husband and I are both blonde, but Tom's dad had red hair, so she
Oh,
got her
that's good.
genes from Poppy. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah,
Right.
it's pretty cool.
So, Jacque, I was going to give you the inside scoop this morning when you were treating me, but I was like, nah, let's just throw her in the deep end.
Thanks.
And we only have one really official part of the podcast, and then it kind of just goes from there. And that's
Sure.
you get 21 words. Now, those 21 words are to describe who you are, what you do. We try and count them the best we can, but we are coaches and we don't know how to count.
+3.
Okay.
Pretty much. So we give you 21 words. We'll tell you when to start. Are you ready to go?
Okay, sure. Let's do it.
Okay. And
Here we go.
go.
Okay. Jacque, business owner, Pilates instructor, sports chiropractor, mum. How many is that? I don't even know. What else am I?
12.
12. All right. I need to, I can describe myself better than this. What else? I lover of food, lover of outdoors, and love what I do for work as well. Love my business, and love helping people.
Whoa, 21. Woo!
That was
There we go.
That was
Wow,
pretty
that-
close to 21.
Just like right on.
You counted.
We'll go
Yeah,
with
yeah,
it.
It probably was right.
Right on. Exactly right.
There's a lot to dissect there.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, let's start with obviously you've just started Total Movement Studio
Yep.
and been practicing for a chiro for how long now? Sorry.
I'm almost 7 years. Sorry, almost 7. Yeah.
Oh wow. And
Yeah.
first obvious question, sports chiro, how does that differ from a traditional chiropractor?
So I suppose I am would be labeled as a chiro, but I treat mostly people that are in the athletic realm. I suppose I can't call myself technically a sports chiro because I've done part of the qualification for it, but haven't done the full thing. Well, it's on my list of things to do, but babies and all of that got in the way. But we'll get there. But mainly I treat an athletic and an active population.
Now, you're obviously I've been lucky enough to be treated by yourself for nearly a few months now. I can't really put a number on it, but
yeah.
You're not the snap, crackle, pop type of chiro. Where did your philosophy come from with that?
Probably a few different things. So I've been seeing a chiropractor for a long time, and the chiro that I saw first when I was a kid, actually, he was an ex-ballet dancer, like a professional ballet dancer. He's like in his 60s, almost 70s now. But he did a lot of soft tissue work because that's how he learned. He's an osteopath and a chiro. So I learned a lot of my techniques through him. And my first chiro job ever was when I was in my first year of uni, and I was his massage therapist. So I'd massage for him, and then he'd come in and adjust the patients and do the rehab and that sort of stuff. I think a big part of that is that I also trained in Sydney at a uni called Macquarie University, and Macquarie does a lot of rehab and a lot of soft tissue input as well. So I think that does differ from if you're training in other parts of Australia or New Zealand. So that does differ a little bit. And we did things like part of our final year was we'd go and volunteer with the rugby team or sports, that sort of stuff as well. So I think through that, what are you going to do if someone comes off the field in a rugby game and, has torn their ligaments in the ankle? You're going to adjust their neck. It's not going to do anything. So you need to be able to, tape and rehab and triage and assess whether they're meant to be in your room, whether you can treat and rehab it, or whether you need to refer off surgically, or what you need to do. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
So there's a few. Yeah, I think the main thing is also that I know that an adjustment is one tool in my toolbox, and it's a really important tool. And I really value the fact that I'm trained in adjusting and like spinal and, joint manipulation. I think that's a fantastic part of what I could do, but it is not the only part of what I do. So I've got, I can do soft tissue work, and I've been training that for a long time. And I'm also a Pilates instructor. So that's where a lot of my rehab comes from, because I'm a rehabilitation Pilates instructor. And I've done a lot of work. I've worked with athletes a long time. So I do that. And I just know that there's a lot more and a lot of benefit from other types of modalities of treatment versus just the adjustment.
I'm grateful for one that you do have that adjustment tool in your toolbox, and my neck thanks you for this morning's adjustment.
I think it's such an important aspect. I mean, I have no idea what's happening to me whenever I get adjusted like that, but you just feel better afterwards.
So
are you able to give us a bit of insight on what actually is going on when something like that is happening? My neck is
of
out.
course.
What's going on? What's the problem, and how are you fixing it, and how does it work?
So there's a few different, I suppose, aspects of an adjustment. The first one is obviously you feel better. So we're increasing your range of motion. So you said your joint is out. I don't usually use the word out, because where did it go? Like, your neck is still in your neck. Didn't go anywhere. It's still there. But there's obviously some, I don't want to say aberrant, because it doesn't mean that it's wrong, but your neck is maybe not moving as well as it could. So we can essentially input a little bit of extra movement into it. That's one part of it. But I think one of the most important parts of an adjustment is actually the neurological side of the adjustment. So around your joint, you've got these amazing all these nerve receptors. So by inputting a really quick bit of movement, so what you hear, like the pop with the adjustment, that's an exchange of gases. So is a fluid changing to nitrogen gas. So that's what that pop noise is. But with that comes a neurological input of the quick input of the adjustment, and it actually sends signals to whatever. Say we've adjusted your neck, send signals from that joint level up to your brain, processes and sends it back down to go, oh, that feels a little bit better, because it's helped my pain modulation. It's helped the mechanoreceptors, so the mechanical fibers and stuff around the joint, to actually have a little bit more input to help with the movement control. And then as well as it's helped the actual movement itself.
Yeah. Right.
Wow. I did not expect that answer. Like, I didn't realize that pop was firstly a gas being released.
Yeah.
And then secondly, the signals being sent up and then back down.
Makes a lot of sense.
I mean,
so if well, if you think of any sort of treatment, so dry needling, which I do a lot of, as you know, Brando, dry needling or soft tissue work or rehab or anything, really what any of that's doing is we're influencing the nervous system. So we're trying to put an input into the body, whether it's touch or the adjustment or whatever it might be, to send signals up your spinal cord. So say we did a bit of rehab with your foot today. So where you're telling your foot, your brain is telling your foot to move, it's then going, okay, I know kind of what's going on here. We've done a bit of mobilizing, we're doing a bit of rehab, sending signals back up all those pathways, up your spinal cord, back into your brain. It's integrating it better in the brain, and then sending those signals back down to your foot to say, okay, we know how to work a little bit better now, because we're activating those muscles a bit. We're changing the joint position sense. We're doing all this stuff. So most of what we do is actually, as much as it does, we're affecting the musculoskeletal system, we're really affecting the nervous system a lot as well, which I think is something that is pretty incredible about any sort of treatment.
Yeah.
That is insane. Like, obviously you're treating the site of, again, using myself as an example with the ruptured Achilles, we're treating the ankle, the Achilles, but really we're integrating almost new software into the brain.
Yes, exactly, which is really cool, because most people think of the brain is like it's the brain, but our nervous system is neuroplastic, so it can actually, it can grow, it can change, it can learn new stuff all the time. So it's a cool way to think about any sort of treatment, really.
So that word you used, neuroplastic, was it?
Yep.
So we can really manipulate our CNS. Like, I know we can manipulate our CNS in the sense that, we can ramp it up for before we lift or down regulate it after a lift, but I know you can. But you're saying we can actually grow it. In what sense is that?
Right. So when I say grow, I probably mean like repattern in a way. Mind you, it can grow, but it is extraordinarily slow growing. And if it's been completely severed, our central nervous system isn't going to regrow. But you see, say, a stroke, someone that's had a stroke sufferer, they can learn to walk again, even though they don't have that part of their brain anymore. They've remapped. So a way that I often describe, say, our nervous system working, how we're treating, especially with people with long-term injury or, say, chronic pain, is that, say, you imagine there's a couple of ways, but the easiest way probably is imagine, I always give the example of the Harbour Bridge because I'm from Sydney, right? So we'll call it, say, the Story Bridge instead because we're in Brisbane. We're talking in Brizzy. So everyone knows you can go across the bridge all the time. And that's just the way that you get into the city. You'll go across the bridge. One day the bridge was closed. It's like, well, crap, now I've got to go on all these ridiculous side streets to get there. And you're relearning and you have to go, oh, far out, I've got to go down this street and turn this corner and do all this. And that's essentially your first way to remove. But eventually, the Story Bridge is going to stay closed. But you learn which is the quickest and most effective way in the side streets to get to your destination. So that's a kind of essentially what we're doing. When we say I say remapping, because that's kind of what we're doing, remapping the nervous system.
That is actually really, I've never heard, I guess, rehab been put into those words. Like that blows my mind.
And I guess what's kind of cool is, like you said, you've got many tools in your little tool belt to be able to help with that remapping process. It's not just a typical chiro where it's, sit in the waiting room, get adjusted, and then
you're out in 15
minutes. You've got your ability to look at it from a sports person, so you can really understand why and what they're doing. Maybe it's adjustments, some needles, some massage work. You've kind of got every little thing you can do. That must be pretty cool.
Yeah, look, it is fun, and it's nice to be able to utilize all those different tools as well and go, okay, well, no, not everybody likes to be adjusted. Not everybody responds well to it, or it's not always an appropriate tool to use. I'm not going to use a hammer if I need to use a drill. Especially there's ways to do things that are more effective. Someone's coming with a ruptured Achilles. I'm not going to try and adjust Brando's ankle after he's done that. That would just be ridiculous.
Let's see how much ligament's left on that bone.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But what we can do is, say, adjust your lower back, because the nerves that come from your lower back help. Well, they supply your leg. So if we're adjusting that can help to send extra signals down to his foot for proprioceptive control, really.
You just seem to have a very holistic approach to rehab. Like, when you hear the term chiropractor, a lot of people are met with resistance because it is just the snap, crackle, pop. And obviously, because I'm on at my forefront of my mind at the moment, I'm looking at different, pathways back to university. And what I've noticed is that the course curriculum of chiropractic is very different from state to state. Is that,
it's interesting.
My first question is, do you know why? Why is there such a vast difference in what is being taught up here compared to, say, New South Wales?
History, unfortunately. I would say a lot of it is. So I don't know the history in Queensland as much as I know it quite well in Sydney. So the reason I know that he's actually quite in depth in Sydney is because the guy that I worked for initially when I was a student, and I worked for him for about 5 years at uni, whom, my family actually still sees now. He's a brilliant chiro and osteo. He actually has written a history of chiropractic in Sydney, but it's based on mainly the New South Wales. They actually started as a separate college. They were chiros and osteopaths. So everyone and osteopathy is very much that more, they do more soft tissue, they do more of that kind of globalized treatment versus the chiro, which is traditionally more the specific, I don't want to say osteo is not specific because it still is, but it's more that targeted one spot treatment in chiro. Before 1991, everyone at this college of chiropractic would graduate as an osteopath and a chiropractor. So then they moved into Macquarie University, and it's just chiro. But at Macquarie, there's also a medical school there, and a lot of our teachers and doctors like a medical doctors, like our lecturers were, neurologists, ex-GPs, that sort of stuff. So there was also that side of it. And then there was the rehab side. And I think just from that, traditionally more there ends up being more sports chiros, or like sports chiros. I don't want to say there's not a label, but I guess chiros that utilize different techniques versus just adjustments that do come out of there, because based on the curriculum as well. Like we did rehab and we did nutrition and we did pharmacology and all of that. We did that in our master's degree. So I think
that's amazing.
So I think that's different. I'm not saying that there's any, it's just different than what's offered in other colleges or other unis as well. Yeah.
I would say
I'm going to put it out there.
It's personal. Yeah. It's just personal preference. And for me, it suited really well because that's the kind of chiropractic that I wanted to treat. Mind you, there are plenty of people that I went to uni with still what you'd call that traditional, like straight chiropractor that they'll adjust, and that's their main form of treatment, which again is still amazing, but it's just different to what I do.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Have you found, I guess chiro can be, I don't want to use the word controversial, but it can have that resistance.
Yeah, definitely.
When we're even as a coach referring to, because I've worked with some good chiros over the years, and I'm like, man, you just need, I think, a chiro. Why don't you get some guy down there? Now you, lovely. And they'll be like, oh no, they're voodoo. No, that probably won't work. And I would always get a good giggle because they would go and see them, because eventually they got shit of things hurting and no one else been able to help. And then they walk out and you're like, oh, it's
that actually helped.
Yeah, my this, whatever that was, is a lot better now. But do you find there's still some conversation, or people go, nah, you do voodoo?
Yeah, full on, and especially since moving up here. So we've moved up here about 12 months ago. And I think part of it is that, like, for a long time in Sydney, I'd built professional relationships. Like I worked for a big company that were brilliant, that really worked with GPs, and they had a really good name. And I had a lot of physios that were in my team as well. So we had that kind of interrelationship. I actually treated quite a few GPs as well. So through that, we had that open conversation all the time, and they were able to spread the word and refer back to me as well. So I saw a lot of people through GP referrals. But up here, I think we're probably about 10 years behind.
Classic Queensland.
And which is fine. And I think it's just part of it is like people like me are able to start those conversations with GPs and go, well, but I've had conversations with GPs in Sydney that have, before they knew that I was a chiro, absolutely poo-pooed chiro and said, never see one of those. And I'm like, that's me. They're like, oh, whoops, that's whoopsie daisies. But,
Did you just say poo-pooed chiros?
We're in mum mode right now.
Yeah, it's great. Sometimes when she treats them, she feels the muscle. She's like, oh, that feels yucky. I love that. That's my favorite.
That kind of puts you in a pretty cool position in Brisbane. You're kind of at the forefront, I guess. You're in that place where, like you said, Sydney was 10 years ago. You were sort of changing the perception and opinion of people with what a chiropractic can do for someone.
And I think maybe as well, that's how I'm perceiving it as well. So I don't know if that's across the board with, with chiros like rehab and, these more mixed chiros, that maybe not everyone is experiencing that same thing. And because I've had a great relationship with a couple of with spinal surgeons and GPs and everything up here now, I'm getting there. And I'm sure a lot of people are getting they are there, but it's just probably it may be just the people that I've come across and just the perceptions in that way as well. So,
but I sit on the fence with that, because it's like I've seen numerous chiros before yourself and only one good one before yourself, and now you, like, there is still a very big, I guess, because correct me if I'm wrong. There you go.
I was going to say there are bad and good practitioners out everywhere. And when I say bad, it might just be that they're not the right practitioner for you, whether you don't gel with them personally or professionally, or whether they just had an off day or whatever. There's plenty of people that I've said to, well, maybe, I'm not the right person to treat you because we're not gelling, or I'm just not the right type of practitioner. Like, I'll refer them to a different, to a physio or
better practitioner.
Yeah, but I was just about to say that makes you in my category. Even if you said that to me, I'd be like, I trust this person more than ever. Like,
And
that's a big difference.
There are people that you just don't gel with. You know, when you go to a practitioner, you've gone to a GP and you're like, well, that was not very good. Whereas other people will rave about them and say, yeah, they're my GP, I won't see anyone else. Or, you know, there's a lot of people, you just have to find the practitioner that works for you. So often people will say to me, you know, should I see a chiro, physio, and osteo? Who should I see? I'm like, you need to see someone that's going to work for your body and that you're going to get along with, and that's going to really focus on you personally and what's going to work for you. Because I think that's what we get caught up with, that there's these lanes that you may only see a physio for this or a chiro for this or an osteo for this, but I don't think that's always the case. I think you need to find the practitioner, like the personal practitioner that actually is right for you.
No matter the modality.
Yeah, I think so.
That's a really good way to look at it.
Yeah.
That is brilliant. Oh no, but I feel like you undersold yourself there, because pretty much everyone who I've referred to Jacque has never said, oh, I need to see someone else after that. So.
You don't. Jackie's everything. I've often thought that a really good practitioner would be similar to yourself, because I feel like if someone who's just done physio, they're going to physio. Right, and someone who's just done chiropractic, they're going to chiropractic, and someone who's going to just osteo, you know, they're so stuck in their lane or path of treatment, and they're still probably going to be good at it, but someone like yourself is kind of really across a lot of things. You can do so many different options. I love it.
But is that?
Yeah, I think. Oh, you go, Brando. Sorry.
Is that also though, because leading on from Johnny's point there, like, you know, physio is going to physio. Is that purely because of the whole like scope of practice? Does that come into play?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I think what makes us safe practitioners, and I think that's what I'll often harp on about, is that you need to know your limitations. It's really important to say, I don't know, when you don't know. I know there's this premise of like, fake it till you make it. And that's like, to a certain degree, you don't want to be like all the time, oh, I don't know what's going on. But you need to be able to say to your patients or whatever, or to whoever you're talking to, say, look, this isn't my scope of practice. Let me refer you to someone that is going to be better at this, or that is able to diagnose this. And if once that's happened, you can come back to me and I can rehab it or treat or whatever that is. If that's not within your scope of practice or even within your expertise. Like, there are a lot of chiros that are absolutely brilliant with like nervous system, like proper nervous system stuff, like stroke and that sort of MS and that. And I still treat that. But if it's a very complex case, I'll refer out, because it's not my expertise by any means. And there are people that are better at that. And I want to make sure that people are getting the best care. And I don't want to fumble through it and not and have someone just come to me because, you know, I could do it, but there are other people that are better.
Yeah, but listening to you talk, you can hear you have really good values as a human being that I've obviously translated into your own business now. Is that something that you kind of have always had in you, like taking care of the person first and then, you know, like treating the person instead of the case?
I think that's really like it should be, and I don't think it's always the case, because there are cowboys within any profession. I say cowboys, it can be a cowgirl or a cow whoever, but they cow humans that are in it, and they will just kind of fluff around or do the best they can essentially to hold on to that patient. But I think you need to put the patient first, and putting the patient first doesn't mean they're always in your treatment room.
Patient first.
That's a fucking good
I like that.
Yeah, that was brilliant. I mean,
plenty of people I've seen over the years didn't put Johnny first. They just come back next week first.
Nah.
How many more times next week till it stops hurting?
I think part of that as well is that a lot of people don't. Yes, you can treat you in the room and we'll treat the symptoms, but I think part of it is the communication to say, look, you're coming back next week for this reason. I would expect you to say you've got, I don't know, a sore neck. I expect your neck to be sore for, say, 6 weeks. This is obviously a plan will change. Plans can change, but this is what I expect. This is what we're going to do. I'm probably going to have to see you for this many times. What I'm assuming, because this is how this injury normally tracks, as long as everything goes how we'd assume. It could be better. It could not be as fast as we'd like, but this is kind of what we're thinking. But that communication needs to happen. And a lot of the time, I think people just assume that people will just take your word for gospel and just go, I've got to come back next week. Well, hang on, why am I coming back next week when I still feel as shit as I did before I had the treatment? Or why am I coming back even though I felt worse after the treatment? That can actually be normal, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, but we need to be able to communicate with our patients effectively. Absolutely. Not in a fearful way to say, if you don't come back, it's gonna, you're not going to get better, but actually be able to communicate with the patient to say, I need you to come back next week so that we can do this, and this is what I'm expecting. Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah, just be honest with your patient.
Yeah, I think we assume that patients understand what we're doing all the time, or we get in a habit of, I'll just see you next week.
100%.
They're the two. Yeah.
I mean, that's not just applicable, I think, to practitioners, but also, bring it back to our world in coaching. There's a lot of coaches here that will try and sell you for their own benefit without looking at the person in front of them.
Yeah. So, like, for example, would you, I think it's with anything, right? Any profession, if you can go, of course you want to be able to improve. So you're not, there's always going to be things that you're going to make mistakes with. And if you have someone that comes in that you don't know things about all the time, you're not just going to send them off straight away, because you need to be able to learn as a professional as well and improve your skills in that way and your knowledge and all that. However, there needs to be a limit in that. And if it's so far out of your scope of practice, including like you guys, if someone came in and they wanted to, I don't know, do something that you just weren't really.
They had a stroke and they want to relearn how to walk.
Yeah. Is that what you're...
No.
That is, yeah. Are you going to refer them to, say, an exercise physiologist that specializes in neurological deficit?
Probably, yeah. Yes, for that one.
Did you say it was just outside?
Just outside that box.
Yeah, just. However, you can still work with that. You can still work with that person. You just might not be their sole person. Their sole person that they're working with. They may need a team of people.
Yeah, or it might be something that when they regain some pattern, then they come back. Yeah,
exactly.
And I think that's I've had this conversation with Paul Pegler before, who we've had on the show. It's something about that, you know what, for the next 6 weeks, he takes charge, he tells me what to do, and then after that 6 weeks, he relinquishes control back to myself. It's like, I take charge. And it's that give and take between practitioners, but it comes from having trust in the practitioner and trust in the coach and a good relationship there.
Exactly. And I think there needs to be a give and take between coaches and practitioners as well. So if you're, as a coach, you Brando, you refer to me pretty frequently, which is awesome, and I really appreciate it. But I need to be able to then communicate with you. I'm not the only person that's working with this, with whoever's on my table. I need to make sure that I'm then communicating that back to you, because you're the person that they're actually seeing heaps more than they're going to see me. And if they're coming back to me every week, I'm not doing my job properly. I don't want them in my room all the time. Yes, we need to do maintenance care for really, I see you regularly, Brando, because you're doing high level work all the time. But if someone is coming...
No, I'm just broken.
High level, baby.
Well, right, yeah. Well, what I mean, like high load and, that sort of stuff, you're putting your body through its paces regularly. We do that. But if you have a sore neck and I'm adjusting you twice a week, every week, forever, I'm not doing my job. I'm not fixing your neck. I'm just making you dependent on me.
Fixing the bank account.
Yeah. So I need to be able to help the patient, and then tell you as the coach and communicate with you as the coach, so that you can then help them as well.
Do you believe there is a big gap between that right now, between for a strength coach and, say, a practitioner, and understanding both realms?
Oh yeah. And I think that I'm not a strength coach. God forbid, you look at me, I've got noodles for arms. That is not my expertise by any means. I refer out to that sort of stuff so quickly. I just say, no, that's not me.
But there is this noodles for arms. That's an analogy if I've ever heard.
I've got spaghetti arms. They're long and skinny. So yeah, I'm not that I couldn't be a strength coach with being tiny, but it's not my scope of practice by any means. I'm not going to write someone a program. That's not what I do. So I would refer out to someone else for that, you guys. Yeah.
Absolutely. I just love that mentality. Now, carrying on from that, and I forgot my point.
You forgot your point?
I did. I had a really good point. I was going to make it.
I think
it was going to be groundbreaking.
Well, I can make a point.
You can make a point. I'll come back to me.
I think that's a really important relationship for a coach, PT, whatever you want to call us, to have with the practitioner. But I think it's also the PT is responsible as much as the practitioner to work with, to go out and build some trust with the person there, so that practitioner can be comfortable to have that working relationship with them.
Yeah.
I can talk about Pegler as well, because I use him as well, and he trusts in what I do because I've been able to show him what I do.
Exactly. And just like we were talking, that's exactly right. And Paul is an absolutely brilliant at what he does, and I trust him as well, like, because I've got a professional relationship with the guys down at Start as well, because they're great. But just like you said as well, Johnny, is that there are, like, you're able to do that, and like we said before, there's shit practitioners, there's shit doctors, and there are some shit coaches or PTs out there as well. So you need to be able to, you need to go out and out of, not out of your way. You should just be doing it as part of your just normal practice for your clients, to have a professional relationship, so that you can give them that extra value to say, this is who you should go see. I'm confident that they know what's going on. I've got a working relationship with them. So those lines of communication are open, and so that your clients can get the most out of their training and, improving their life that way.
Absolutely. And I think there's another part of ownership that the coach or the PT needs to take in upskilling themselves, and not to, be a jack of all trades and see something and treat it, but just to understand that when the practitioner is relating information, there needs to be an understanding of fundamental rehab principles, I believe, for a coach. So when you're telling them, all right, we're in stage 2 of this, or stage 1, it's very acute, whatever, like they can then go, okay, well then I can overlay what I need to do over that. But that's the missing link. And that's my frustration with the industry as well. It's like the PT industry, the coaching industry, is that we're getting jammed down our throat that, we're supposed to be this fucking great movement specialist, all this bullshit. Fire truck.
Yeah, fire trucking specialist.
What's a fire truck?
Not a fucking specialist. What's helping you to make it kiddie friendly?
Oh, I was so confused then. I was like, what? But yeah, so we're getting jammed that we're supposed to be, the top, we should understand everything, but there's no principles of foundational movement being taught in a PT course or a strength and conditioning course. Like, there needs to be a way for PTs and coaches to upskill and educate.
Is there an excuse, forgive my ignorance here, is there a governing body or is there anyone that creates accountability within the strength and conditioning and PT realm?
So
someone's trying, but they're not.
Well, so in the PT world, you've got Fitness Australia and the PT world, and they're absolutely useless. And I don't mind saying that on this sort of setting, because they are fucking horrendous, and they are very much. Fuck, I'm just going to take war against Fitness Australia, but they literally I recently I started a coaching course and looked into getting it registered with Fitness Australia, so it could be one promoted to other PTs, but they can get continual education credits for doing the course. And part of my mission is obviously to upskill the industry. But before they even look at the course, they want $500+, and that doesn't even guarantee that your course will then get approved by their governing body. And it's like, well, there's just another barrier to entry for people wanting to put good information out there, but it's now not going to be, my reach, instead of being 1,000 people, could have been 10,000 people, whatever it is. So that's one thing the industry needs to change. And the ASCA, Australian Strength and Conditioning Association, they're doing better. They're a little bit better. But again, they're so stuck in strength and conditioning, like, oh, here's the new research on how much your barbell work is better than, I'm just throwing something out, like that's the research they're promoting. It's not we need to start learning and co-collaborating with other practitioners in different fields, if we want the whole industry of this fitness and movement, whatever fucking industry, fire truck industry you want to call it, thank you, welcome. If we wanted to see it change, and like obviously there's good, like I know you did a bit of mentoring previously, Jackie, before Bub, and like those sorts of things need to happen more.
Yeah. I think there's like you said, Brenny, you're trying to upskill the profession, and that's something that I'm always really passionate about as well, is creating a space and creating knowledge within people, like for people that are maybe fresh out of like their courses or uni or whatever it might be, to be able to come and actually learn from people that have got a little bit more experience or whatever it might, like, or even if it's just different experience as well. That if that is, like, if you're wanting to do that, especially if you're really passionate about it, why is there a barrier? And obviously there might be so that they're trying to, I guess, control what information is coming out to make sure it is quality. So that can be a little bit tricky, but yeah, it's one of those hard lines to kind of like, figure out.
$500 isn't like a big deal. Like that's not the issue. It's the fact that you got to pay before they even have a look see. Like,
the principle behind it though.
Just make it $1,000. Look at my course. I'm fucking happy to pay that if you're going to approve it. Like, it just seems so stupid if this governing body is trying to, you know, be the center hub of information and upskilling. Like, well, you just created multiple barriers for me wanting to even approach you. Like,
exactly.
Absolutely doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I totally understand that. It's very frustrating.
And then I guess for us, our industry, there's no rule. There's no one saying that you have to be a part of the thing. So even if there was an association, we don't have to do it. So
that's the thing. It's like,
it's also a challenge that probably needs to be overcome at some point.
Because if you're a practitioner, Jackie, and correct me if I'm wrong, whether it be physio or whatever, there's a governing body that governs all of it. Like you have to be a member of some association.
We don't have to be a member of an association as such, but every year we are registered with AHPRA, which is the Australian Health Practitioner Regulation.
Yeah.
So we're actually, it's a governing body that's controlled, like doctors, physios, chiros, we're all part of this same like health board, I guess you could say. And you can look me up on, like, you could just Google me on, like, for AHPRA, and you can Google my name and I'll come up. And you can see whether I've got any restrictions to practice or anything like that, which I don't.
Oh, wow.
But like you can see, that's all public knowledge. It's all publicly available. You can have a look and see whether if you've been sued or whatever, it's all up there.
Holy shit, I didn't know that.
Imagine if they had that for PGs.
Well, that's it. Like, and it's something that, you can Google me and there I am.
Yes.
So,
but how much, like, that'd be so good for the industry.
Oh, yeah.
Well, especially our industry, because we need that regulation. There needs to be some, because again, there's no set scope of practice outside of what Fitness Australia governs, and like, fuck me, it's a load of bullshit. Like,
this is still not really, like, we've got two chiropractic associations separate, which you pay like separate fees to if you want to be part of them. I'm part of one of them, the Australian Chiros Association, or the ACA. And that again is another expense. I like what they do to promote the profession, but again, it's an expensive expense, which is disappointing. Like, which is hard again, as it is. Like, it is. They're not a governing body by any means, but they are an association that promotes us, and I like what they do. But again, it's that, as you said before, the cost. It's a barrier. It is, especially like for me. I'm a new business, brand new business. So, building up from 0 patients means that, those costs are a sacrifice. Like, I pay for it, but it is a lot. But again, I like what they do.
Do you mind if I ask, what do you get out of that, being a member of that association?
I get a few things. I get a discount on my professional insurance, which is a big one. That's nice. I get a magazine every month, which I think every month. It's good though. It's got good information and stuff. But they also, I think one of the biggest things is I really like is that they're an advocate for our profession, and they're doing a really good thing. They're doing good things with promoting Spinal Health Week, and they've got like subgroups like Sports Chiro Australia's within the ACA. They've got like pediatric ones and women in chiropractic and that sort of stuff. that's all within the ACA, which I really like. And I like to support that side of things and support the profession. They also are really good at supporting new graduates and being, I guess, promoting pay and promoting like workplace kind of agreements and that sort of stuff as well, which I am really, really passionate about. So, and I have been from the get-go, like just, I think that there's a lot of expectation that when you get out of uni, you're just going to be a contractor. And I don't think that that's necessarily a viable or necessarily a safe way for new grads to practice, considering that all they're going to have to do to work is get as many patients through the door as they can to make the money. And then there's not then a focus on developing hands-on skills or professional skills at all. And I think that that's something that I'm obviously very passionate about, developing the skills of new grads, but also just having that, I guess, understanding that contract work is not necessarily always the way to go with new grads as well. And so they are a really good source of information for that side of things as well.
That's still, you're still getting a lot out of that. Like,
and I think
that's
it's unfortunately for a lot of people, it's the good way. It's the first thing when, they're trying to cut costs. It's not an essential thing by any means to have that association membership. But I do try. And there's always the politics within any profession, is whether you have it or you don't. But my personal choice is to be part of the association.
Yeah. Oh, man, that's pretty fucking dope. Like, I really like your whole approach to chiropractic, but also just treating the person in front of you rather than the condition or any other underlying factor. I think that just it should be inherently how any health practitioner deals with a patient. Like, we can really get caught up on symptomatology. So like, what's hurting, let's just poke at that for a little bit. But if we're not really focusing on the general health of our patients and making sure that we're supporting them in more than just their little ouchie bit, that we're able to sorry, here I go, mum mode again.
Brenda's got a boo-boo.
But no, well, they're fire trucked bit, right? Whatever's messed up, there's more to the patient than just that. So whether that be supporting them with mental health, so referring to psychologists or GPs or whoever, or referring to other specialists, I think that is something that we really need to be good at. Because otherwise, like, especially like often, so you go into your GP and you'll often see them for 5 minutes. So someone comes in to see me, I'm not seeing them for 5 minutes. My minimum appointment time is half an hour. So while I'm treating them, I'm having conversations with the patient, and a lot of the time I need to be able to have not the tougher conversations, but we do end up having quite in-depth conversations because I'm spending half an hour with them. Like, it's not, so I need to be able to do that as well, I guess, if that kind of makes sense. I know it's a bit of a roundabout way to say that.
No, it made perfect sense.
Something you touched on, which I always think is very overlooked, is the psychology of the injury. Like, you fix, let's call it an elbow, you fix the physical problem with the elbow. But I think too often it's not as overlooked with any practitioner or coach, is that there's a psychology issue with that process that we have as well, and I think, in my opinion, take longer to overcome as well, right?
Full on, completely. So
if you want to use a real example, use me. Like,
you'd be worried about your foot the whole time.
Well, this morning, like, Jackie treated me and she was like, "Can you do this?" And I was like, "I think my body could," but I was fucking scared to shit.
And that's so if we talk about pain is a protective system, but it's also a communication system. So I think depending on the patient that comes through your door, you need to be really careful about what you're communicating to them. So saying things like, "Oh, this is the worst I've ever seen," or your foot's fucked. Like Brando, your Achilles was fucked. Like it was you ruptured it. Like it's not a good injury to have. However, and I know that I can speak to you about that in that sort of way, because I know you as a patient, and I know how your brain works a little bit. But if I had someone that came in that was a very worried person, like more so like, you know, about that sort of thing, you need to be a little bit more careful about how you're communicating, because the initial communication you have with your patient will inherently affect the psychological process that they go through with healing. So we were talking about like the mapping earlier.
Yeah.
All of the communication, the way you touch your patient, the way you communicate, the way you respond to what they're saying, how you listen, all of that comes into how you're going to remap the nervous system and how you're going to help a patient get through their injury. Yeah. I think that's something, I think you're right.
I think all the time, you know, everyone's like, yeah, if it's a foot, you're worried about your foot being sore the whole time, and then it turns out it is sore all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah,
well, that's a good point. Yeah.
Something that I think is a very tricky thing to treat is chronic pain.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time you say, well, you know, pain's in the brain, but it doesn't mean that it's not real. Your pain is very real when you've got chronic pain, but your nervous system is a little bit confused as to what's going on. There doesn't necessarily have to be a physical injury there anymore, but the pain is still very real. And so we need to be able to treat the psychological and the neurological overlay of that. It's not just musculoskeletal anymore. But I don't think anymore. It was never just musculoskeletal.
Yeah, right.
There's more to it. How do you see the future of your industry, and what would be your goal for it?
Yeah,
in the next 5 years?
So I've got my own personal professional goals, and then I've got goals for the industry itself. I think if we can integrate better within all health professions, so with coaches, with GPs, with specialists, with whoever, with physios, osteos, I think that is something that is so important. And understanding our lane, but also being able to integrate a little bit better, I think is something that would help allied health and help the health industry in general just take off, and everyone would be able to be getting the best care that they really deserve. I think that's, I suppose, my hope for it. I think that's going to take longer than 5 to 10 years, but little steps, little bits at a time. I think, like, you know, if I can work close, like, I think every individual practitioner can really do their bit in breaking down those barriers between professions. Yeah,
and you're absolutely leading by
that. 100%. Now, before we do get into our last official bit of the podcast, before we forget, Jackie, give yourself a shout out. Where can people find you on the gram, workplace, anything like that?
Yeah, awesome. So my name's Jackie, but I am Total Movement Studio is my business name. So you can find me at Total Movement Studio on Instagram, or Total Movement Studio is www.totalmovementstudio.com.au is my website. And bookings on the website, or you can always feel free to ever, you know, just message me on Instagram as well. Like, I'm happy to answer any questions people might have on Instagram and DMs and everything through there. That's me.
We will direct people definitely there, and we'll put that all in the show notes. But now we get to have some fun. We have 10 questions. This is a lot of pressure. Rapid fire answers. First thing that pops into your mind, 10 random questions so people get to know the real Jackie.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Big insight. Okay. First question number 1. What fear would you like to overcome?
Going over bridges.
Oh, what, really?
Driving, walking, all of the things.
Used to be driving and walking, now it's more just walking. I think it might be like a heights thing, but I'm not normally scared of heights. Being over the bridges, really, like falling in the water, freaks me out. Yeah.
Wow.
Bridges are scary. I get that.
Yeah.
Now, Jackie, 2-part question. Part number 1. Who is a close friend, or could call them a best friend? Who is it? Give me a name, please.
Paris.
Now, I need you to not stress about Paris, but maybe a tiny bit of stress, because unfortunately Paris has just been kidnapped.
Oh God, okay.
Yeah. Paris is okay for now.
Yeah.
You've got about an hour drive ahead of you to deliver some ransom. The kidnappers have said, hey, we need some money. You have the money. Don't even worry about that part of it.
Yeah.
Paris is the 1 hour drive away. it's going to take you 30 minutes. You know, the kidnapper said you've got an hour to get there, 30 minutes
Yeah,
to get there.
Okay.
You got to do something for that 30 minutes while you drive the car. You're going to listen to something. What are you going to listen to?
Good question. Music. It'll definitely have to be music that's going to really distract me. Yeah. I've got this playlist on Spotify. It's going to sound ridiculous, that I made before I was due to give birth to my daughter, before I knew that I was having a planned cesarean because she was upside down, so I couldn't deliver naturally. And so I made this playlist called Birth and Before, which started with just like a couple of like nice chilled out songs. Yeah. And now I've just now added really random music to it. So it's got like Funky Town, you know, you take me to Funky Town. It's got that song. It's got a bit of like old school Bewitched, like C'est La Vie. It's got that. I'll probably listen to that really random Birth and Before playlist that was definitely not going to be listened to during birth.
On your way to St. Paris.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What did you think you were going to be when you left school?
My answer was always something to do with the human body. So I ended up where I was meant to be. Yeah.
That's cool. What is the next skill you would like to learn?
Ooh, the next skill. That's a good question. My next skill, what would I like? I don't even know what I'd like to learn. That's a very good question. All my folks, you know what? I think just the general skills of business, because that's kind of where my head's at the moment. So I've had a very steep learning curve in the last little bit with all of this. Yeah.
What makes you grumpy?
Grubby or grumpy?
Grumpy.
A disorganized house.
How's that go with a 7-month-old?
Yeah, she's not really on the move yet, so it's not been too bad. It's more how does that go with a husband?
Damn husband.
He's actually pretty good. He'll kill me for saying that, but it's tidy space, tidy mind.
Yeah. What's something embarrassing that you own and or have done?
Ooh. What have I owned or done? Oh, I did. Well, something that embarrassing that I've done before is I had I've sit on these like wheelie chairs on floorboards here, and I was talking to a patient. I sat on the edge of my chair and it flew out from me, and I landed straight on my bum.
Yeah,
that was good. That was embarrassing.
Most proud moment.
Oh, I've got a few. Having I successful delivery of my baby girl, which was I was very proud of, graduating from my master's degree, and I'm actually very, very proud of myself today, specifically because it's my first day of my new business, so it's like I'm actually extraordinarily proud of myself today.
Yeah, I was first patient, bro. Patient.
Congratulations.
Yep. First official day back from maternity leave, my own business. Yeah.
That's fucking huge step too. Like going from motherhood, which is already a challenge, just straight into business ownership as well.
Yeah, it's been a really full on year, but it's good.
Now you're given a boat. What are you going to
boat?
Yeah.
Ooh. What am I going to get named a boat? Probably LMA, because that's my daughter's name.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah.
Now I think we may already know the answer to this one, but we're going to ask it anyway. Who is the messiest person you know?
No, it's actually not my husband. It's my dad.
Oh.
I wish I could take a photo of his office. It's so messy.
That would kill me.
Oh, my husband's actually, Tom's in the army. He's pretty good, like at home, but like he just, leaves bits and pieces around. No, my dad's a mess.
What is the worst smell you have ever smelled?
The worst smell I've ever smelled. My daughter has just started solids.
Here we go.
And it is absolutely rancid.
Oh,
actually, no, I can top that. So we have 2 massive dogs. And we used to live with my husband's best friend. And for whatever reason, they thought it would be a really good idea to have like a bin in the backyard that they just have a garbage bag in and just put the dog poo in, and then they just empty it each week.
That's not a good idea.
So no one ever emptied this bin.
It
filled up with water. So it was dog poo, like a massive, like this big bin with water. And then Tom and his best mate Lachlan had to empty this bin into the other bin, and
No.
Both of them were vomiting out the back, and I was inside the house with the windows closed, and I could still smell it. That was the worst smell I've ever smelled.
Bin juice.
It was the most fucked up thing, but I still think about it and laugh because they were outside. Their eyes were watering, and Lachlan was on his hands and he's vomiting.
That's bin juice.
We got to change that question, eh?
I love that question.
You're scarred for life just thinking about that.
Oh, yeah. You know what? It's not. That was so well descriptive that I'm actually smelling it.
Yeah, I know you can smell that, right?
That's fucked.
Yeah.
On that note, thank you so much for
No
giving
worries.
up your time on your first day back.
No,
we
thank
really
you for
appreciate
having
you
me.
coming on, and obviously we'll definitely I'm still stuck on that story, Jackie. That was fucked. That's so bad. But it
was so bad.
We will definitely love to get you back on. Obviously, good luck with obviously the new business. And Ella, she's absolutely beautiful. We can't wait to see her more.
Thank you so much. Thanks, guys, for having me on. Such a pleasure.
No worries. Thanks, Jackie.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.